What is going on, everybody? It is Luke Beller, and I thought today we would cover the 5 biggest offseason needs for the Packers coming into the 2021 season. So I'm going to go position by position. Obviously, these are just my opinions, so take that as it is. But I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on the 5 positions I think the Packers need to focus on the most coming in to 2021. But first off, before I get into today's video, I wanted to say thank you guys so much. We just hit 5,000 subscribers, which is awesome. We started January at like 2,600, so to get to 5,000 beginning of February, very awesome. I really appreciate all you guys who have been supporting the channel. But if you guys are new to the channel, I put out Packers content, Packers news, Packers breakdowns 5 to 6 times a week. So if you want to see that kind of content, make sure you guys subscribe and turn on those post notifications. So taking a look at this entire Packers team, what could potentially be the number one need for this Packers team in general? Personally, I would have to say the cornerback is the most crucial or most needed position for the Packers to address coming into 2021. And there's a few reasons why I think that. First off, we all know Jaire Alexander has been one of the best cornerbacks, if not the very best cornerback in the NFL in the 2020 season. Coming into his 3rd year last year, we were wondering, would he make that sort of 30-year jump that lots of players seem to make? And he really did make that jump. And one way to sort of see just how much he's improved in 2020, so taking a look at his PFF grades. And PFF grades, I know they're not everything. Some people don't completely agree with PFF, but I just like them just because they scout the players, and it sort of gives you a good idea of sort of just how they rank among other players in the NFL. So taking a look at Jaire Alexander's grades, 2018, he had a 72.4 grade. These are all out of 100. 2019 is 71.3 grade, so about the same in his first 2 seasons. And in 2020, a 90.7 grade. So he took a massive leap up in 2020, and he was graded as the number 1 cornerback in the NFL. So that obviously means we have the number 1 cornerback spot filled with Jaire Alexander. The problem is outside of Jaire Alexander, we've been struggling at the cornerback position, and we really did witness that in the NFC Championship game. Unfortunately, we had to witness that. But Kevin King has just not been great in his past 2 seasons with the Green Bay Packers. We saw that in the Buccaneers game, giving up that touchdown to Mike Evans, as well as that touchdown to Scotty Miller. And I just think that we just really need to find a guy to come in and replace him. Personally, I don't see him coming back in 2021, but you never know. He could end up being back. And I wish him, nothing but the best, for the rest of his NFL career, whether it's with the Packers, whether it's with someone else. So hopefully he, ends up having a great rest of his career wherever he ends up going. But personally, I don't know if the Packers will bring him back. And so I just think that we just need to find another guy to come and pair alongside Jaire Alexander, because we have the best cornerback in the NFL. That's my opinion. Lots of Packers fans would likely agree. We just need someone else to come in and, give the Packers that second cornerback to come in, to teams who have multiple wide receivers who can, do damage. As we saw with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have so many different weapons: Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. And I think, maybe the Packers can get away without having that great number 2 cornerback, facing off against teams that don't have great, number 2 wide receivers. But coming to the playoffs, most teams are pretty stacked on the offensive side of the ball, so we're going to need someone else to come in and be able to guard, that second best wide receiver, when Jaire Alexander is guarding the number 1 guy. So that's my personal opinion. We do have Chandon Sullivan. Take a look at his grade. He had a 60.2 grade, which was 66 out of 121 players or cornerbacks. And so I think he's more of a slot guy, like a slot corner. And so I think he could be good enough for now, for the Packers to keep in this lineup. Hopefully we can come get another cornerback. And so I think personally the Packers should come in the draft, potentially draft a cornerback in the first, 1 or 2 rounds. Maybe they'll do that. We'll just have to wait and see with that when the draft comes up. But that should definitely be a fun time. I'll be putting out lots of content around the draft in the coming months, as well as, when the draft actually happens. So now moving to the second need I think the Packers need to address in this upcoming offseason. And I was sort of having trouble deciding between the number 2 and 3 that I have here. And you'll hear them, the second need, I think, and the third need. Maybe you could interchange them. I don't know. But first off, let's go with the offensive line. And I do know that we do have a lot of depth on the offensive line. But I do think one area we need to sort of cover, sort of for this year and coming to the future, is the offensive tackle. We have David Bakhtiari. Unfortunately, he'll probably miss, the beginning of the 2021 season, most likely. And so we're going to need to, I just think, bringing some more depth at the tackle position, especially with David Bakhtiari down. And if there's one thing I learned in 2020, it's that you can never have too many offensive linemen. Because with David Bakhtiari down, it was great to have other guys who had the ability to come in and fill in, to sort of basically be able to plug up those holes. And so when looking at this offensive line, We have Corey Linsley, who's going to be a free agent coming in, or he's about to be a free agent. He could be a free agent if the Packers don't actually decide to come in and sign him. Personally, I don't think he'll be coming back, but I don't know what's going to happen. But if he does not come back, Elton Jenkins could be a guy that could move to center. We saw him play center a little bit in 2020. Lucas Patrick, possibly, people have said maybe he can move to center. And then potentially bring John Runyon in to fill in, whichever other guard is needed. And then we also have Billy Turner and Rick Wagner, who were pretty good in the 2020 season, filling in, of course, at times for David Bakhtiari as well. But I just think coming into 2021, with David Bakhtiari likely going to be sidelined, we'll have Rick Wagner and Billy Turner at the tackle position. But I think we should potentially bring someone else in, just, also for the 2021 season, but also for the coming years as well. Because Rick Wagner, he signed a 2-year deal in 2020, so after this season, he'll probably be gone. And I've seen some people say that they think he could be a guy who Packers decide to cut just because of the cap savings. But with David Bakhtiari down, I'm not sure if that'll happen. So we have those two guys, but I think just having another tackle to come in, protect Aaron Rodgers, for the coming years could be very beneficial. And also taking a look at the past, draft, the Packers did draft 3 offensive linemen in 2020. We drafted Jake Hansen, 6th-round center, who maybe, the Packers signed him, coming into this offseason, I guess to like a futures contract, I'm pretty sure. And so maybe he could develop this offseason and become the Packers center. I'm just not sure how talented he is because he did go down with an injury in October of this year. So maybe potentially Jake Hansen could be the guy and that could solve our problem at center. But we'll just have to wait and see sort of how he progresses coming to the offseason, coming into training camp. And then we also drafted Simon Stefaniak in the 6th round last year. So maybe he could develop and progress. So there's lots of questions with this offensive line. We do have lots of players, but I think, dressing the tackle, especially with Bakhtiari down, could be a good idea. All right, so now moving to the third biggest need I personally think the Packers should address. I was debating with myself this one, whether or not I should put it here or not, but I'll sort of explain my thought process, and this is the inside linebacker. And the reason why I was sort of debating, is this a need, is this not a need? We brought in Christian Kirksey. Hasn't really gone too well. We signed him to a 2-year, $16 million deal. But taking a look at his PFF grade, he had a 48.5 grade, probably one of the worst years of his career. And we sort of saw throughout the season, Chris Barnes sort of came in and started playing more. And so I think Christian Kirksey could potentially be cut this offseason. And that leaves us with Chris Barnes, who, a young guy, as well as Kamal Martin. So 2 young guys at the, inside linebacker position. And while we do have these guys, I'm just not sure if they're going to be, the guys of the future at the linebacker position for the Packers. They could potentially be. But let's just take a look at their stats, sort of how they performed in 2020. So first off, Chris Barnes in 2020 had a 43 grade, which ranked 73rd in linebackers. And he wasn't great in coverage. He was targeted 41 times and allowed 36 receptions. But one of his best qualities probably is his tackling ability. Then we have Kamal Martin, who definitely did not play as much as Chris Barnes. And he had a 68 grade, so much better than Chris Barnes. Kamal Martin had a much better grade than Chris Barnes, as well as Christian Kirksey, considering both of them. Their grade was like in the 40s. He had a 68 grade. And so with having those 2 guys, Chris Barnes, hopefully he can progress and become better, because it'd be great if the Packers didn't really have to come in and, spend resources on a linebacker. And I was reading that apparently they should only cost the Packers $2 million or less coming into the 2021 season. So maybe that's where the Packers feel like, okay, we're good enough here. Let's add a cornerback. Let's add a defensive lineman. I don't know what they're thinking. But there's a part of me that's wondering if Chris Barnes and Kamal Martin are good enough for this Packers defense. And I have seen some mock drafts where people have said the Packers could potentially take an inside linebacker in the 1st round. And honestly, I would have no problem with that. Honestly, I would love to see it. And so just looking at that Buccaneers game, one of the biggest problems for this Packers offense was Devin White and Levante David, both of their star linebackers. And I think to have a guy on the Packers who could come in, in the 1st or 2nd round, pick an inside linebacker who could come in immediately and be a great player, I feel like that could be a very, a very good add by the Packers. And so maybe potentially inside linebacker could be a need. I was debating this one, but I decided to put it at number 3 just because honestly, I would just love to see a great inside linebacker come into this Packers team, spend some high draft capital on an inside linebacker. Maybe it's a good idea. Maybe it's a completely terrible idea. Who knows? But that's sort of my thought process on the inside linebacker position. So now moving to number 4. And this sort of depends on whether or not Preston Smith stays or leaves. Personally, I feel like he'll leave just because I think the Packers will save $8 million if Preston Smith ends up leaving in this offseason. So if he does leave, I do think the Packers will need to bring in another edge rusher. We saw Zadarius Smith had another great year. He was ranked 14th in PFF grades. 76.3 grade, and he had 12.5 sacks this season. So another great season from Zadarius Smith. And then Rashawn Gary really started to break through. He had 5 sacks. He started to improve throughout the entire season. And Rashawn Gary was ranked 43rd out of 112 for linebackers. And so I think having Zadarius Smith and Rashawn Gary as our two, sort of edge pressure guys, outside linebackers could be great, will be great coming into 2021. And I honestly feel like Rashawn Gary could continue to take steps forward, just like we saw Jair Alexander take a huge step forward in his 3rd year. I think we could see Rashawn Gary take a massive step forward coming in to 2021. But that means that besides those two guys, we just don't really have too much depth at that position. So potentially the Packers, should maybe come and bring in another edge rusher to sort of pair with those two guys to add some depth. So now for number 5. I was debating with this one as well. There's a few different positions that I feel like could sort of go in for 5, so I'll sort of just give all 3 of them. They could be interchangeable. And so these positions are the wide receiver, running back, maybe, and the interior defensive line. So wide receiver, I honestly think that, sort of the talk is mainly like the Packers need to go draft a wide receiver in the 1st round from like a lot of people. And it would probably be funny. Probably this year is the year like when everyone's like, oh no, the Packers don't actually do that. Like as Packers fans, we're like, oh yeah, last year we wanted a wide receiver, but we just know they don't do that kind of thing. It would be really funny if like this year they come in and draft like a wide receiver in the 1st round and we're all like, wait, what? And then we're just completely confused for years and years to come. But anyways, we know we have one of the best wide receivers, Davante Adams, as well as Allen Lazard, who has been pretty good, as well as Marquez Valdes-Scantling. The thing is, though, I feel like the Packers could use like a slot guy, like a quick, speedy guy, maybe a little shorter, maybe more of my height. Maybe I could go in there. I'm like 5'9". I could be like a nice little slot guy. Probably wouldn't work out. But anyways, we have Allen Lazard, who is 6'5", Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who is 6'4". So maybe bring in a little speedy guy, like a Cole Beasley. He would be a great guy. I don't, not saying like he should come in. I don't think that's even possible. But maybe drafting a guy middle round, who could come in and be that quick slot guy, maybe catch some yards after the pass. I don't see why that could hurt. And I'm pretty sure I saw that we don't have any receivers signed after the 2021 season. So after this season, we don't have any contracts signed for, wide receivers in the future. So maybe build some more depth there. And coming into 2021, you'd think the Packers will sign Davante Adams some point during this year. I'm guessing. If not, that would be very sad. I would cry a lot at night. But anyways, and then for the reason for running backs, so we know Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams will both be free agents. And the question is, will they keep them? Will they keep both of them? I doubt they'll keep both of them. Will they keep one of them? Who knows? Personally, I don't think the Packers will bring back Aaron Jones. Maybe Jamal Williams. That's just sort of my thought process. And maybe there is a potential, obviously there is a potential, that they let both of them go. We already have A.J. Dillon. But if we did let both of them go, the Packers, I think, would just sort of need to add a running back who, like a quick guy, more of an Aaron Jones type guy. A guy, obviously, who would be a lot cheaper than Aaron Jones. Because A.J. Dillon is a massive guy, a very powerful back, and he does have lots of speed. But I do think we'd still need to bring in a, more of a pass-catching running back to sort of pair with A.J. Dillon if both of those guys go. But that's obviously, depends on whether or not we keep these running backs, and who knows what's going to happen, coming into the rest of the offseason. And the last part I put for 5, this is like a 3-part 5. It's like a third, is the interior defensive line. Because we have Kenny Clark, but outside of him, the guys just aren't as good. I saw that we may potentially cut Dean Lowry. I've seen lots of people sort of say that could be a good guy to cut this offseason. Yeah, so why not just add another interior defensive lineman guy can come in. We can pair alongside Kenny Clark when that is needed. Why not? I think that could be a good position to sort of fill for this Packers team. So those are my top 5 needs, but I would be curious to hear your guys' needs. Drop them down in the comments below, what you guys think the Packers should focus on coming in to this offseason. But if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you drop a like on the video down below. It just really honestly helps push the video to more Packers fans, which is always awesome. And if you've yet to subscribe, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. And once again, thank you guys so much for 5K subscribers. It's awesome. 10K, we're coming for you next. So thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.